for week 1 and talking you through exactly what we'll be doing in the course and also some of the key concepts that we hope you got from challenge number 1 and lesson number 1. Okay, so in the first session, we are doing the Hopscotch drawing challenge, which you have done, where you draw some shapes. And now we're about to start the Frogger challenge, where we make a game like Frogger or Crossy Road. After that, you are going to be, next week, you'll finish off your Frogger game, and then you'll be working on building a Hopscotch Flappy Bird game. The week after that, we're going to build what I call rock, paper, scissors game. And basically, it's like the traditional rock, paper, scissors game, but with a bit of a twist. You might change up the theme, and it involves versing the computer in a game that might be luck or chance or some logic. In week 4, we do our freelancer project, and what this project is you going out to somebody and acting like a real freelance developer and asking them what project they would like made. So it might be a game, an animation, or some other sort of program. And then you come back in and you have your best shot at creating that project for them. Then the last 2 weeks are dedicated to your major project, which might be an extension of what we do in the first 4 weeks, or it might be something completely new. Now, what I do want you to do is have a watch the video that I've linked to. It's on YouTube, and it's called Michael Jordan Failure Nike Commercial. And I'm just going to read you the quote off that commercial. Michael Jordan was a famous basketball player who played for the Chicago Bulls. Many would say he's the greatest basketball player of all time. And he said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." And that's from Michael Jordan. And the reason, you might think, why are we talking about basketball in a Learn2Code session? And the reason why is because this attitude is really, really needed if you're going to succeed in anything in life, but especially in learning, and especially in learning computer programming and coding, because you need to just have the guts to have a shot at things, and also understand that when you have a shot at things, quite often you might end up missing, and you might feel like you've kind of failed, but that's the whole point, because from that failure you're actually going to learn, and that experience will help you the next time around. You'll be able to solve the problem more correctly. And if you keep failing and learning from those mistakes, then eventually you're going to be really successful like Michael Jordan. Okay, so here's 4 questions that I want you to pause and jot down your answers to. So it's a good time to pause the video. The first question is, what do you think a computer program is? The second is, what things do you currently create with technology? So what do you already make with technology? And the third is, what would you like to create in this Learn2Code course? The fourth question is, what would you like to learn to create with technology this year? So the reason why we have question 3 and 4 is because in question 3, your answer needs to be about Hopscotch. What you want to make in Hopscotch. So it's not going to be a website or an app, but maybe throughout the year in question 4, they could be things that you would like to make, like a website or an app. Now, I spoke about the event blocks a little bit earlier, but it's really important, and I stress a couple of points about the event blocks. The first point is the event blocks, the when blocks, they are something that happens, and this something causes our program to run. So for example, we looked at it before. We had when the play button is tapped, that's the event, that's what happens. The play button was tapped, then whatever instructions were underneath it happened. There's also other lots of blocks, and I would encourage you to have a shot at using all of these, maybe just in a practice run. But today we're mainly, for our Frogger game, we're mainly going to be focusing on the something is tapped block and something is pressed. And we can fill in here what is tapped or what is pressed. Okay, every program that we have needs to have a when block, and it might be the case that your when block is what ends up causing the bug and causing something to go wrong in your program. So it's always a good place to start checking if your program is doing something different to what you expected. Okay. Also in our program up here, in our when blocks, we have what character, what sprite we are programming. So you want to make sure, you got to think, do I want to program the robot here, or maybe you wanted to program a different sprite? So you need to make sure that it's really clear what you're programming, which sprite. Okay, today we're going to mainly be looking at 3 types of blocks, and they are statements, and they're the simple instructions in Hopscotch. And we have the drawing blocks, the appearance blocks, and the movement blocks. Today especially, we looked at leave a trail, but in the next session, we're going to be more looking at the movement blocks and the X and Y axis. So, as I said, X and Y, and this is one, in our program, it kind of gives you a little bit of a hint what's coming up a little bit down the track. We have, when our helicopter bumps the star, the position is set to X 500 and Y 500. And you might remember from maths class that we have the X and Y axis. And the X axis goes along the bottom of the screen. And in Hopscotch, it starts at 0 here and goes to 1,000. And the Y-axis goes up the screen, up and down. So it starts at 0 and goes to about 800 up here. I think I've written 750, but... So the X-axis is the horizontal. It goes from left to right. And the vertical axis is the Y-axis, and it goes up and down. So that's really, really important to remember. Another thing that's important to remember is that when we list coordinates, we list X first and Y second. So this would be 0, 0. This would be X 1000, Y 0. And this would be about X 0 and Y 750 or 800 probably. Another thing to note is these little squares. They're 50 by 50, those squares. 50 pixels by 50 pixels. So that's 50, that would be 100, that's 150. And if we count across, we would have 10 of those. So, sorry, 20 of those. So they add up to 1,000 pixels across and 800 above. So we spoke about degrees a little bit in our first program, in our first challenge. But basically, the degrees is the amount of turns. So what I really like students to do, we might add to this video later on, get you to stand up and do a full circle. And that full circle, if you stand up and turn right around and go back to your start position, that's 360 degrees. So if you did half a turn, so you turned halfway around, face the other direction, that would be 180 degrees. And then if you just did a quarter of a turn, so half the half, that would be 90 degrees, and that's our right angle. We're also going to be having a look at percentage. Don't get too stressed about this, but because we're going to be using emojis today, they actually get a little bit small on our screen. I find them a little bit small, and I find them too small for my fingers if I'm trying to tap them. So I make them grow by 200%.